Hey guys, we are finally live with Tracy Wolff and the author of these gorgeous titles.
Hi, how are you?
Yay! We have a slew of people already in here watching, which is great. Of course, guys, if you have any questions, toss them into the live chat where you happen to see it. If for some reason YouTube isn't permitting you to post the live chat, you can DM me on social media and I will find your question. Just make sure to tag me, Crossword Review, on all platforms and it will pop up on my phone. So, of course, Tracy, thank you so much for coming on. When Entangled Teen said that you were going to book a show, I was just like, any day. She can have any day she wants. I don't care. Take it. I love Crave, and it devastated me so much when I got to the end and that cliffhanger was on there, and then the next book wasn't up on NetGalley, and I'm just like, no. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I know the cliffhangers are doozies sometimes. I'd say I'm sorry about that, but I'm kind of not sorry too. So,
No, never be sorry about
that. Does that count? I love you guys.
Cliffhangers. So I always like to start these with, tell us a little bit about you and your journey to becoming an author.
Okay, my journey to becoming an author. Wow. Okay, I like to say that I have wanted to write, or I've been telling stories since I understood that letters made words and words made sentences that could entertain people. But my actual first experience, like I really remember of writing a story down, was I was in second grade, and my parents had gone into the bank to I think it was to get a car loan. I can't remember. We had just moved to San Francisco. And that was back in the days where you could leave your kid in a car. And it was San Francisco, so it's cool enough and you weren't going to die, not like Florida or Austin, Texas,
right.
So they'd said, you want to come in? I'm like, no, I'm going to finish up my book. And it was a Judy Blume book. I do remember that. And so I finished the book and I was bored and I looked around for something to do. And there was this notebook and an aquamarine. I still remember aquamarine marker was all I had. So I wrote this 10, 20 page short story.
Oh, wow.
Something about a princess and a leprechaun and a pot of gold and a rainbow and a prince. And I don't know, I haven't changed much. Right. And I just, when I finished it, I thought, this is the best thing ever. Why would anybody want to do anything else with their life but this? But the road to actual publication was a little rockier. I went to school. I went for my undergraduate English degree, and my mother was very clear that she would not support me when I was 40. So I had to have some kind of, practical thing besides, writing and creative writing. So I'm also from a long line of teachers. So that was not a big deal. I decided I wanted to be an English professor. So I went to graduate school in New Orleans and worked on my master's degree in American literature, started writing. Actually, and this is something not many people know. In fact, almost nobody knows. But that was the first time my name actually ever appeared in a New York publisher book. And it was the professor at the time that I was graduate assisting for. I had done a lot of the research for her, and I had typed up her book because she didn't know how to type. And she had done a big shout out, thank you to me in the acknowledgments. And I just remember thinking at that time, I was 20 because I graduated early from college. So I was 20 in grad school. And I just remember thinking that it was the first time my name had appeared in a book that was published in New York, but that it was not going to be the last time. That was the, spark for me. Right. And after that, I did more grad school and got married, had a baby, and right around, I guess it would have been 2005, we moved to Austin, and I had a chance to take a year off for the first time ever. I'd always been in school, working, mothering, and I stayed home with my son, who was very ill. He was a premature baby for a year, and I wrote my first novel. And I'm one of the really, really lucky ones whose first novel was picked up by a publisher. And I got my agent pretty soon, right? It's pretty soon after that. And it came out at the end of 2007. And since then, I've done about Crave and Crush and Covet are my 64th, 65th, and 66th novels.
Oh, wow.
So I've been around the block. I've published with most of the major publishers in New York. I've done YA, I've done romance, I've done urban fantasy. But yeah, that's my road to publication.
Is it all under Tracy Wolff? Or do you
Nope, I've actually written under, I wrote one book under the name Ivy Adams, which I did with two of my best friends. And that was a YA called The International Kissing Club. I wrote YA Oh, I wrote YA for a really long time as Tracy Deebs. And that was the name for my YA for a long time. I did the Tempest Rising Mermaid series. I did a superhero series with Tara Lynn Childs. I did a couple technological Armageddon books, all under that name. And then Tracy Wolff had always been my romance name. And I did a huge amount of romance under that name. I did paranormal romance, dragons, and witches under the name Tessa Adams. See, all these things nobody knows about me. If you haven't been to my website. And yeah, when we decided on the Crave series, my publisher really wanted to go with the Tracy Wolff name. And I was okay with that. And Tracy Wolff and Crave was born.
Love it. So is it hard to keep all the names straight?
It was for a while. The hardest thing was when you were doing book signings in person. And there was a period where I was really publishing actively under all three names, right? Mm-hmm. And then people would hand me a Tessa Adams book, followed by a Tracy Wolff book, followed by a Tracy Deebs book. And I had a number of books at one time or another piled under the thing that had like wrong signatures on them until I learned the AKA trick, which was Tracy Wolff, aka Tessa Adams,
But you get to a point you're just going to write Tracy from now on because that's all.
Yeah, right. It's just love Tracy.
Just write Tracy.
Yeah.
So omit the last name altogether. All right, let's see. First question that we have on the chat here is a movie series coming.
Is the movie coming? Well, Universal bought the rights way back before Crave came out, even, which was incredible and super exciting and amazing to us. And we've had several meetings, and I know that they've, they're moving along, with a producer and a script writer and all of these things. And from there, it's in their hands, and I trust them implicitly. They've been really lovely and amazing, and I can't wait to see what they do.
Excited. See here. Ooh, it jumped on me. Let's see. I finished court in 4 days. I finished it 4 days ago. Can't wait for court. Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, that's really lovely. I'm so glad you liked it. We're so very glad. I'm assuming you liked it. If you're here, I guess. I hope you liked it. I hope you liked it.
Will we ever hear about Hudson and Grace's time in the stone?
Yes, you will.
It's like how to answer these without spoilers.
Yes, that's all I can say about that, but you will indeed.
Let's see. I want to be an author, so hearing you talk about this is so inspiring and helpful to know how you came into success.
Well, can I address that?
Yeah, of course.
Mackenzie, a lot of people recently are saying, they're hearing my name for the first time because the series has been really wonderful to me. And, we just hit the New York Times series list yesterday, which was incredibly difficult and so incredibly exciting. We're all still kind of dancing around from that. We're so thrilled and so grateful that the fans have taken Crave and Grace and her group into their hearts the way that they have. I mean, it is incredible. But, publishing is, people always ask me, what my advice for authors are, authors who really want to publish and make a career of it. And it is a journey. And that's the thing I think so many of us, forget. Like you sell your first book and you think, yes, I've done it. This is the most amazing thing in the world. And everything's going to be so easy from now on. Cause selling that first book is not easy for almost anybody. And however, everything you've learned going into writing that first book, the chasing down the agent, the chasing down the publisher, all of those things. And you think, yes, I've done it. I'm not going to ever have to do that again. And the fact of the matter is, that's not true. Like, rejection will continue to come at you the rest of your career because, people will, you go out on submission with a book, you have a new series idea and some publishers will love it and some, will not like it. If you're lucky, some publishers will love it and want to buy it, right? And some will pass on it. So, there's that. So I always kind of liken it to a marathon, Mm-hmm. I thought it was a sprint when I first got into the business. So my first book sold and then I grabbed up my agent super quick. And And that's another funny story. If we have time, I can get into that one day. But I grabbed up my agent, and then I wanted to go in two different directions. So I actually had my first book come out in November with one publisher, and my second book come out in January with another publisher. And that was kind of how I worked for a really long time. And I didn't realize at the time, I thought I just have to race so that I can get everything that I want. And I didn't realize that this whole thing really is a marathon. There are ups and there are downs. I had a couple of really big series around 2014, 2015 that hit the lists and had, a big fan base and all of that. And, and then you kind of go down again and this and that. And I think if you're looking at writing long-term, if you're looking at it as a career and something you really want to do, you cannot sweat the small stuff. You can only do what you can do, which is write the best book that you can write when you're writing it. You know what I mean? You can't worry about who's gonna like it, who's gonna hate it. You can't worry about what if it doesn't do well, because I used to live and die by that. And one of my favorite books that I've ever written, I poured everything into. I took a ton of time on it. And when it came out, it sold 800 copies in the first month. And I was devastated. I thought my career is over. This is, the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It found its legs, and since then has, actually done pretty well for me. But that first month was brutal. And if I had crawled under the covers and buried my head and said, oh, I'm never going to do this again, then we would never would have gotten to Crave. We never would have gotten to all the amazing things that came after that book. So it's always good, I think, to just do the best, pour everything you have into the book you're writing, and just take the long view of everything else.
Awesome. So one question keeps coming up, and somebody sent this via the your street team as well, that if Hudson and Jaxon are hundreds of years old, why are they still in high school? Because I remember back in Crave with her uncle saying that Jaxon is not hundreds of years old.
That is an answer you will find in court, and I cannot tell you because I will get in very big trouble by my publisher if I spoil things. But the answer to that question is coming in court. I promise. I will not leave you hanging on it.
It's spoilers, no spoilers.
And I think the answer is actually pretty cool. So I'm hoping you guys like it as well.
Interesting. Scroll back through the questions over here. See, all the books are awesome. I'm obsessed. I will definitely
thank you so much.
Say yes to that. This is the third time I've written Crave, and it never gets old. It just doesn't.
Oh, thank you. That means the world to me. I had so much fun writing these books and laying little things in that, hopefully if you did reread it, you would find, the second or third time around or whatever. And so I love hearing that people are rereading them and enjoying them and finding new things. It just warms my heart.
Yeah, this is like the Shadowhunter series. I can read that. I've read it millions of times, and it's I could still go back and just reread it, and I love it. And this is the same way. It never gets old.
Wow, that makes me feel really good. Thank you.
What's your favorite thing you have written?
My favorite thing that I've written. That's you. I'm gonna say I love the Crave series. I have so much fun writing it. I have so much fun writing Grace and doing all that. That is by far my favorite thing that I've written, I think. Other outside of the Crave universe, I had a lot of fun. I wrote a couple technological Armageddon stories. One called Doomed, one called Phantom Wheel, and I had technology hates me. I mean, it hates me like I cannot even explain to you. It's not even I just don't understand how it works, because I do. I pay a lot of attention. I figure out how it works. It just refuses to do things for me. It just flat out refuses to do what it does for every normal person. My best friend laughs at me. We go into the bathrooms that have the automatic stall locks. I get locked in. It's I have some kind of magnet. They don't know I'm there. I go to wave my hand under the water thing. She has to do it for me. She has no idea that it doesn't even acknowledge that I exist. And it's just kind of always been that way with me with technology. So for the fact that I've written these two books that are technological Armageddon stories and that required so much research about how viruses work or what would happen or how you bring down an electric grid or how you blow up a nuclear power plant or all of these other things kind of shocks me, But I think I had a good friend of mine who told me once that she really thought that maybe I was the only one who could write like books, like, of like our friend group who could do those books, because I'm the only one who has such a, animosity filled relationship with technology. So of course I
Right.
would be the one who's like, what happens when it all goes wrong? And those were a lot of fun to write as well. They were
That's
all YA, by the
awesome.
way. I love writing YA.
Who has the loudest voice as a character?
Oh, in my head? I mean, Grace, right? Grace came to me fully formed. I had this idea. I wanted to write a vampire boarding school with other creatures because I couldn't choose, right? Vampires are amazing, but dragons are incredibly amazing, and witches are awesome, and werewolves are cool. And how could I possibly choose between all of them? So I just threw them all in there. But when I was kind of thinking, like, okay, so what is happening at this boarding school? That's all I knew, right? Who's there? What's going on? And literally one day, as I'm just in there doodling and thinking, Grace just started talking to me in the back of my head, just like full on having a conversation. I'm like, oh, hey, there you are. Okay. And I just started listening and like thinking about her. And then I started writing, and she came to me like super easily. I don't know if it's because, interestingly enough, in a lot of ways, Grace is the character, I think, who is most like me. In a number of ways. Like, I would totally never ever tell Macy that pink was not my favorite color. Like, I just wouldn't. Like, why hurt her for no reason? Like she's gone out of her way to do something super nice, and why would I, it doesn't matter, right? Why would I want to hurt her for no reason? So things like that, definitely Grace. But of the other characters, honestly, and they didn't come up till Covet. Remy and Calder, who you may or may not see again, came to me just like so loud. In fact, Remy was like larger than life. And my editor's like, let's pull Remy back a little bit. I'm like, no. I love Remy so much. So their voices, Remy and Calder both. Yeah, very, very very came to me very well formed, and their voices have always been very clear to me. Oh, there goes my earbud again. I'm having trouble today. See, I told you, technology and me. I mean, I know how to put an earbud in, one would imagine, right?
Are you still writing Court, or is it already finished?
Oh no, still writing it. Still writing it.
Isn't it coming out the end of this year?
It's coming out in September. Yep. Still writing it.
Getting it kind of close there.
This whole series has been kind of close, Originally, we had planned a year in between, and then with the pandemic, we launched Crave, and then with the pandemic and everything going on, and people responding so well to the books, and I get all these DMs on a regular basis about how much the books mean to them and how much they help them through, a difficult time or whatever else, and I wanted to, my publisher and I made the decision of like speeding it up, for the fans, and that means that we've been running on an accelerated timetable because they are very large books. And I wrote both Crush and Covet completely since the pandemic started. Oh, and wow. Now I'm writing Court. So
let's see. Will Court be longer than the other books?
Well, that seems to be the trend, right? Crave was long, Crush was longer. Covet, even though it's the same size as Crush, is actually between 30 and 40,000 words longer than Crush. Oh, wow. That is why the print is smaller, as some people have noted, and it is why the margins are tinier, because we couldn't. I mean, here's a little tidbit not many people know. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing to build a book by, but we literally had to go out and measure the shelves at Target to make sure 2 books could fit on the shelves, right?
Oh God, yeah,
because they needed. Right, because they needed to be able to stack too, and actually they stack too, but a little bit hangs off. But if we have it any bigger, that too much is going to hang off and it's going to fall off the shelf, and that'll
maybe they should have made, because I know like these are like the regular height as a regular hardback. Maybe they should have done the taller hardbacks.
Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe. That's a yeah.
Oh, if this happens, I'm going to be so sad. Is Tracy going to pull an Allegiant on us and kill off Grace? Which I know you can't say anything about that, but oh God. That would be so heartbreaking.
You know what? You're right. I can't say anything, but like, oh my God, I was heartbroken at Allegiant. I was heartbroken. Like, I was like, what did you do, Veronica? Yeah, I was heartbroken.
It's actually right. I like the ending to Alicia because just it made it feel real. You know, if you are
Well, it was
in real
real.
life and you are littered with bullets, there's more than likely a chance you are not going to survive. You know, and that's all there is to it.
I was still really sad.
It's so sad though.
I was really sad.
Let's see. Okay, I literally cry reading your book because I'm a true Jaxon and Grace fan. What made you decide to put Hudson and Grace together?
You know, I think Jaxon is an amazing character. I really do. I love Jaxon so much. And he's another character who came to me pretty well formed. You know, and I think that for the Grace who came into Katmere Academy, he was a wonderful guy. And I think he was an amazing first love and anything you could ask for, I think. But the thing is, when you talk about Allegiant, you like the ending because it was real, right? I think that it's a really important message. The idea that maybe your first love isn't necessarily your only love, right? How many of us are not with the person we first fell in love with? Not because they were a terrible person, because that's very important to me that Jaxon does not get vilified, that he is not a bad person. He's not. He's a really good guy. And I think however it ends, Jaxon and Grace will always have an incredible relationship, I think. But I think that it's important to understand that it's not just about the guy who needs you. It's not just about the guy who you make better. It's about the guy who makes you better, right? And maybe that's your first love and maybe that's not, you know, and I want girls, because the truth of the matter is when you look at it, in my team Jaxon and my team Hudson, I'm team Grace. You know, I'm team Grace. And I want Grace to have the best life and the best choices and the best of everything that she can have, because I think that girls deserve that. And I think that for so many of us, we tend to sublimate that for the for another person, for a guy, for somebody that we think needs us or whatever. And I mean, I guess we're just gonna have to watch and see how the series plays out all the way to the end, I think. But yeah, I just want who's best for Grace, and I just want Grace to really be able to feel good in her own skin and shine in her own right.
Awesome. So, are we going to get any more books set within this world, or is it 4 books and that's it?
There's a bunch of characters in there that I love and that I know the fans love, and maybe they'll get their stories. Guess we'll just have to wait and see.
See, making the special editions at different places was a huge moneymaker. Great idea. I totally brought them all. These books made me cry, laugh, and I fell in love and have anxiety. Yes, I can fully understand that. So do you know if there's going to be special editions of Court?
I have been told that is probably what's going to happen. Yes. Awesome. I don't have definitive, but from what I understand, I think that's where it's going to be. And can I just say that the special editions have been, as a writer, it's like an incredible honor to get one, let alone to get 3. And I've always wanted one. It's always been on my writer bucket list of things you want, right up there with like making the New York Times series list, or something like that. The things that you never think you're going to get. And the fact that I managed to, that we, managed to get 3 exclusive editions for Covet was a dream come true to me. I mean, I'm so excited and so grateful. And I love how enthusiastic the fans have been about them. I love all the excitement that was around them, and the idea that you bought like all 4, just like, oh my God, I'm just so grateful and so thrilled that that you like the book and that it mattered to you the way it matters to me. So thank you. Thank you for making my dream come true.
See, these books remind me of Twilight, the Vampire Academy series, and more stories with vampires. Where did you get your inspiration for this epic tale?
Oh, I've always wanted to write. Like I said, I've written mermaids, I've written dragons, I've written witches, I've written superheroes. I've always wanted to write dragons, or I've always written. Sorry, I'm on my dragon series. I've always wanted to write vampires, but the problem is, you just listed the problem, right? There's so many epic vampire stories that it's a little terrifying. It's a little daunting as a writer to throw yourself into the vampire fray and hope you do okay. Because, you're standing on the shoulders of giants, from Bram Stoker to Stephanie Meyer to a very good friend of mine who just died recently named Rachel Kane, who had an incredible Morganville vampire series that I loved more than anything, to Christine Feehan and Sherilyn Kenyon. And I mean, so many, right? Incredible vampire stories in even just the last, decade, 15 years. So I was really, really nervous about it because I wanted to make sure I had something original. I wanted to make sure that I had something to say that maybe hadn't quite been said in a world that maybe hadn't quite been explored. So I'd been very hesitant about it. And then when my publisher came to me and asked, "Hey, we'd really love to bring vampires back. We think it's time. We love paranormal, and I know you love paranormal. What do you think?" And I was like, "Yes, let's do it. I'm all in." And I'm like, I'm a little nervous about vampires, but let's see what we can come up with. And I came up with this boarding school. I'd been wanting to write a boarding school story forever, and so I came up with Katmere Academy. Which is, I don't know. I've only said this, I think, in one or two interviews, so I don't know if people know like where the name Katmere comes from, right? It was totally my homage to Hogwarts, because like warthog and meerkat and Katmere. So anyway, that's where the name Katmere comes from. And so anyway, I'd come up with that idea, and then it was really about building the world. And I knew when we started Crave, we knew where we wanted to go. We knew where we wanted to end the series, and this world that we created, which I think if you've read Covet, you really got to see more world building. And I think it was really hard for me actually to because, I knew this world from the beginning, but as I dove in with Crave, I had to remember I was seeing it from Grace's point of view. So I had to learn only a little bit at a time, and I kind of wanted to be like, "Hey, look, there's, giants over here," or "Hey, look, there's this over here." And "Oh my gosh, what about this?" And it's been, this very slow reveal, which is why, like, a lot of the questions I say, "You'll get it. You'll get there. We'll get there in court, but we just gotta get there." So, yeah, so it's been about, I was nervous. I mean, I was nervous, but it was about making sure I had a mythology that I thought stood up to the giants that I'm standing on, whose shoulders I'm standing on.
I remember when I first read Crave. And I was like, "Is this supposed to be like a Twilight parody or something?" Because it really made me feel like that. But then as like it started going on, it kind of found its own footing, and I just fell completely in love with it. It was so good.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So did you ever get lost with where Grace was going in the book and need like a map of the school?
Oh, a map of the school. Yeah. Oh my gosh. When I was first writing Crave and I was really designing the school, yeah, I was like, okay, is that on the 3rd floor or is that on the 4th floor? Yeah, a little bit. But now I know the school pretty well. So I'm pretty good about where everything is.
We need a map. We need like blueprints of the school in the last book that like opens up so we can see all the levels.
Oh, maybe we do.
Do you have any other series in mind after Crave? Anything that's inspired while you're writing this series?
Oh, lots. Honestly, I'm one of those lucky writers who never suffers from a dearth of ideas. I have a book about, I have a planner that I use, a happy planner. It's about this big, filled with ideas for just YA novels. I have another one for women's fiction and romance. And so, yeah, but I also have ideas writing the series of what I might want to do with some of the characters who appear in the series, who aren't, Grace, Jaxon, or Hudson. And so I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what comes next. But I do have a lot of ideas. It's
like spin-off. We all scream spin-off. Can you tell us which book it was that only sold 800 copies in its first month?
It was actually an adult romance, and it was Love Game, which I contest, or I will still say today, is one of like not just my favorite books that I've written, but one of the best books I've written, besides the Crave trilogy and a couple other books that I've written. I think writers all have their favorites in their lexicon, and it was always one of mine. And it is definitely an adult. It is not a YA. But yeah, it's one of my favorites.
My favorite Jaxon Grace moment is the Alaskan lights. What is yours?
You know what? That scene, I wrote all of Crave to get to that scene because, it's so far back in the book. And it was actually the scene that came to me first. And I'm usually not that kind of a writer. I'm a writer that writes from the beginning to get to the end. And that's just, I have my main beats going in, just like I have my main beats for the series. Like I know these are the 10 things I need to do in this book, but then I tend to like each scene kind of doesn't get mapped out as clearly. And once I have like an idea of what the scenes are, they still surprise me because I just kind of let my imagination go wild and see what comes up. Anyway. But anyway, in Crave, I just knew that scene, that Aurora Borealis scene. And I saw it so clearly. And I'm like, oh, okay. Every day I would sit down. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write that scene. I'm going to write that scene. And like every day, like Crave got longer. And every day it kept getting pushed further and further back until it was 3/4 of the way through the book. And the day I got to write it, I was so excited. And I like called my agent. I'm like, I got to write my favorite scene. So yeah, I love that scene. That's one of my favorites in with Jaxon and Grace. Although I like the bite scene too.
That reminded me so much of the Vampire Academy series. Oh my God.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because in that, Rose Hathaway and Dimitri, they get spelled upon and kind of go hot after each other and then realize what's happening. Yeah.
Nice. I will admit I have not read Vampire Academy. It's in like the first 2 are in my to be read pile.
It's so crazy though, because I've read a lot of books where like, oh well, this reminds me of this, and then I talked to the author and like, well, I've never actually read that one. It's like it's so crazy that it's so close.
Really? Yeah. Now I'm really intrigued. Now I'm like now I'm like gonna have to crack those open.
They're so good. The only book I didn't like in that series, I think, was Blood Promise. It was so slow.
Okay.
Be prepared. It slows down.
Okay.
The rest of them are great.
That happens to the best of us.
See, does an in-person book tour look closer now?
It looks much closer than it did with Crave, actually. We were just talking about, maybe being able to do a party for court to end the series and that kind of a thing. So depending on vaccinations and obviously we want to be safe and we want all of my readers to be safe and all of that. But yeah, hopefully soon. I miss you guys. I love the energy. I love meeting my readers. This has been great. I love some of the virtual events because you get to meet readers who you'd never get to meet otherwise, and that's amazing and wonderful. But I do miss. I'm one of those rare extroverted writers. I love people, and I love book signings. It's one of my favorite things in the world. So yes, please. I would love to do an in-person book signing soon, as soon as it's safe.
Here's an interesting one. Is there a reason that all the books start with a C?
Oh yeah, no, that was deliberate, right? Not only do they all start with a C, all 4 of them mean to woo in one way or another, right? Or all 4 of them are romantic, right? You crave something, you covet it, you like a crush, you have a crush, you court somebody.
I never thought of it that way.
So they have different meanings, right? I mean, a lot of crushed.
People are commenting, yes, a Katmere map, please.
A Katmere map, please. I will put a bug in my publisher.
I love bookish maps.
Me too. They're super cool.
Ooh, here's one. Will the romance get spicier in court? Or are you still keeping it YA appropriate?
I think we're going to keep it. Oh, go ahead.
It's like YA appropriate is kind of iffy nowadays. I mean, you've got books like Sarah J. Maas that go a little bit further, It's not all just fade to black.
Yeah, I think the heat level that we found in Covet is one that feels comfortable to my editor and to me. So I think we'll probably keep it around there. So because I feel like it's okay. If you're 15, 16 and you read that, I feel like it's okay, it shouldn't upset. Hopefully it won't upset mom and dad too much.
Right. It's at that fine line that you shouldn't cross.
It was a line to walk writing it too, I'm trying to keep it as appropriate, age appropriate as we could, but also
it's so crazy
what I wanted to deliver with the scenes.
It's so crazy nowadays because a lot of people that read YA are not young adults. They're I'm like almost 40, I mean they're older people. So it's like we don't care for the most part.
Right? You're like, bring it on. Let's go. But then you're like, I'm in middle school libraries. So
Right. I remember talking with Lori Forrest, you wrote the Black Witch Chronicles, and she's like, "Yeah, I thought my editor was going to be like, you can't have this in here." When she did her sex scene for the Shadow Wand, and they let it slide, and she was like so excited.
well, that's what we do, right? We like put stuff in and we like push a little bit and we like wait to see, right? Are we gonna get knocked back by the editor? And when I did one of the scenes in Covet particularly, I like slid it in there like nothing to see here, folks, nothing to see. And just waited to get slapped back. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised as well.
That's awesome. Let's see. Is Hudson's story from his mind going to continue in court?
Gosh, I'm having the hardest time with these earbuds today. I do not know what is going on. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Is Hudson's story in his mind going to continue? Hudson's story is going to continue. Are we going to be inside his mind at the end, you mean? I guess we're going to have to wait and see. I haven't written that far yet.
Do you know how it's going to end?
Yes, I do know how it's going to end. I do. I've always known how the series was going to end. I've always had a pretty good idea of where I wanted to go and all the little stops. Like you know what I mean? You hit the major beats. You know what those beats are. It's just about the little stuff in between that maybe you don't know. But I've always known book 1 was going to look like this, book 2 was going to be this, book 3 was going to be this, book 4 was going to be this. So yeah, I've known where they were going to go.
That's cool. Did anything surprise you along the way? Like, did a character decide to like go a different way than what you wanted?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That happens occasionally, right? I mean, that happens with no matter what you write, I think. But I think that's good because I think it gives you the freedom to keep the story exciting for yourself. And I think that makes it more exciting for the reader as well. One of my favorite stories to tell about that was actually in a mermaid series that I wrote many, many years ago. It was my first paranormal YA that I wrote. And there's this moment, like I knew where this scene was going to go. I mean, it's one of those ones like the Aurora Borealis where I'd always had an idea of what I wanted to do with the scene, right? And so I sit down to write it that day and I'm like all excited and I'm writing. And it's the first book, remember, it's book 1 of what's going to be a trilogy. And then suddenly I kill a character that I had planned to be in all 3 books. Like dead. And I'm like, literally, like, what did I just do? And I like look around, like, did anybody see me do that? Like, I can take it back. And then I stop and I say, okay, don't take it back. Like, let's live with it a little while. I know it changes everything, but let's live with it a little while and see how it feels. So I got up, did some laundry, walked around, took a long walk around the block and realized that no, she needed to stay dead. So she did. And then that changed everything about, not everything, but big points about book 2 and book 3.
Oh, wow. See, what pushed you to change Crush's cover? I recall it being a block of ice with blood dripping. I didn't know it had a different cover.
It did have a different cover, and I actually have no control over the covers. I mean, I love them, but I have no control over them. That is a publisher decision.
And Barnes and Noble. Always blame Barnes and Noble. I've heard so many authors be like, yeah, we had this amazing cover. And then Barnes and Noble comes back and is like, we don't like it. Change it.
Oh my gosh. One of my funniest stories about Barnes and Noble was with one of my technological Armageddon books way back in the day. They'd done this, I thought, amazing cover. And then Barnes and Noble like hated it so much. And I was like, and we ended up having to change it several times. And I really like the cover we ended up with at the end. So maybe Barnes and Noble were right. But it was changing. Yeah, it was a lot. That cover in particular is the one I remember. But they're shelves.
See, do you think that the authors create the looks of the characters, or do you think it's up to the reader? My friends and I debate this. I think the author lays a base and that the reader imagines.
I think that's actually a really, really good way to look at it, right? Somebody asked me in an event earlier, actually, about like if I had, movie stars in mind when I create my characters, and I don't. I I know a lot of authors write for mood boards like that, but that's never been my thing. Because for me, nobody quite looks like who they look like in my head, right? It's the same thing with audiobooks. Like the first time, if you get really lucky, like I feel like I got really lucky with the Crave audiobook series. I have an amazing narrator for Grace, but sometimes you get an audiobook and you're like, that's not what she sounds like at all, but the publisher doesn't, think that. The publisher thinks, oh, that sounds just like, Chloe or whatever. I absolutely, I kind of do. I feel like I lay the baseline for you and then you get to fill in the details. And I love that. I love that when you look at the fan art that there are so many different versions of Grace or Jaxon and Hudson and Macy and Flint and whatever. And I think that's amazing. Because, I mean, the characters belong to me when I'm writing them, but then I share them with you, and I think they belong to all of us.
Mm-hmm. I just completely lost my train of thought.
Oh, it happens.
Oh, God. It's like I just looked at the question and then it's like, wait, oh, it's gone. It's just completely gone. Oh, do you think that the ending of Court is going to shock fans?
I don't know. I think that, because it's the end of the series, the goal is obviously not to. Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Do you know if we're going to get an epilogue?
I don't know yet.
I'm all for epilogues, like seriously. And I love those epilogues where they like jump into the future because it's like, it's like a little update of what these people that you've fallen in love with, what are they doing? I need to know.
I love looking ahead, just knowing that they're okay, right? Like I fall in love with you. I've lived with you for 2 years and how many thousands of pages at this point. I want to make sure you're okay. I do love epilogues. I think that's cool.
I love it. Throne of Glass irritated me so much because she only goes a year into the future, and it's like, no, let's go like 20 years in the future.
Yeah, let's see where they're at. Let's make sure they're still happy, right?
They're old and gray. They've got kids. I need to know what's going on with these people. Yeah. See, do the crone dragon's heart make a reappearance?
Do the crone make a reappearance? The crones? Oh. The crone definitely makes a reappearance, I think. You'll see her again.
Everybody's saying, please don't stop at Court. There needs to be more.
Thank you.
I think I got through all the questions on here.
Awesome.
So what have you been reading lately?
What have I been reading lately? I have been rereading one of my favorite series, actually, because a bunch of new ones are planned again. And I'm a huge Nalini Singh fan. Have you ever read her?
That doesn't sound
she has this Psy Changeling series. She's a New Zealand author, and I love it so much. So I have been rereading that series. I read the new Patricia Briggs series, new Patricia Briggs book in the Omega and Alpha series, and I read Taryn Fisher's The Wrong Family, which was super amazingly good. And I'm reading a bunch of contemporary YA romance kind of books right now. And they're a lot of fun too.
All of those. Let's see. Here's one. What is your favorite chapter title? I love those chapter titles. Oh my God. They remind me so much of like Breaking Dawn when all the chapters are now in Jacob's point of view and he has all like the snarky chapter titles. I love it. I love it so much. I had
forgotten about that. I had completely forgotten about that with Jacob. Wow. Wow. I'm going to have to go back and look at my copy of Breaking Dawn now. I haven't looked at it in several years. I'm totally going to go check that out when I'm done with this interview. What is my favorite chapter title? There's a lot of them. I'm a big fan right now in Covet of Who Needs Plausible as long as you've got deniability. I like In One Ear and Out the Other, particularly because I think it was so apropos for what was happening there. Actually, I like a bunch of them. I like coming up with them too. Some of them come really, really easy, and some of them come take a lot longer. You know, actually in Covet, the title that took the longest, and it was like we were down to the wire with it. And I had not come up with a title for chapter 0 for the prologue, because it needed to be relatable, but it needed to be something that was somber, but had, you know, layers to it. And then finally, at like the last second, I don't know what somebody had said, like we weren't even talking about it. We were talking about something else, and life after death came to me, and I was like, that's what this is, right? Because it's like, obviously, you know, you're dealing with after, you know, the afterlife and all of that, and paranormal creatures and all of those things, but you're also dealing with, you know, the aftermath of a death, and what does life look like after that happens. So that was maybe the hardest, which was not the question, but a little extra information there.
Let's see. What were the purpose behind the promise rings?
Oh, well, that is a court question. We could
Okay.
talk about that in a few months.
Like, come back. You gotta wait. See, have you read Midnight Sun?
Oh, yes, I have. Absolutely.
And I think that is all of the questions for today. So thank you so much for coming on. This was great.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I've loved being here and answering questions and talking to you. You're wonderful. So thank you so much.
You guys make sure to pick up all these books.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great ones out there.
Oh yeah.
Mine. I mean, all these books we talked about that aren't mine.
Right. And you guys can join us tomorrow. Join me tomorrow at noon for my next author, which is Julian, I think it's Bowman, for The Stolen Kingdom, and Stormrise, which this is a Mulan retelling, which was amazing.
Oh, how cool is that? I love Mulan retellings. Did you read Sherry Thomas's Mulan retelling? It's called The Magnolia Sword.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh my gosh, that is really good too. I really enjoyed that one.
Storm Rising though, because it's like more fantasy, that like I read that all in like a day and it was amazing. I was like, I'm not putting this book down. I'm not putting it down.
I'm totally good with that.
And then on Saturday or Friday, also I will have a show at 2:00 with Sarah Beth Durst. She is one of my favorite authors. She wrote the Queens of Renthia series. She is coming on for The Bone Maker. And then Saturday at 7 p.m. I will be talking with the author, another Entangled teen author, for Crown of Bones. And luckily they sent me 2 copies of this one, so I will be giving one away. So
she is fabulous. I love that book.
I love this cover. It was so pretty.
Cover.
All right. So thank you guys for watching and have a great weekend. Bye.